Hey everyone, welcome to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast band showcase episode where we interview bands that are up and coming and deserve a little more attention. Today we talked with Joseph from Taking Aplha. He's a great guy and we had a lot of fun hanging out with him. And make sure you stay tuned to the end of the episode to check out a special song from Taking Aplha's upcoming EP. Alright everyone, let's get into it. Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Cody.
And today's guest, we have Joseph Acosta from Taking Aplha.
What's up?
Hey, so, it's really funny bringing you on here, and how we met is literally, I just met you at the gym at the apartment complex that we both happen to live at, and I was just wearing a Hatebreed shirt, and you're like, dude, they do fucking great show live. Yeah.
Small world.
So, Joseph, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I got my face punched in at that Hatebreed show that I was talking about.
I mean, you basically have to for it to actually be a Hatebreed show.
For a Hatebreed show.
Say it's not metal until someone gets punched in the face.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this, and you're not from a punk rock band. You're from a more hardcore throwdown type of band, right?
Yeah. I would say that we're pretty much we have like a hardcore background, but we're probably right on that like metalcore line, stylistically speaking.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
So are we talking like Killswitch Engage or something more like Ghost Inside?
Yeah, I would say we have things at our most metal. We're probably like older undying, maybe.
All right,
maybe older Lamb of God.
Nice.
And
Cool.
then at our most hardcore, we're probably like Terror a little bit.
Well, you know, and
Alright.
that's so funny that you mentioned Lamb of God, because Lamb of God, when they started out, we're a hardcore punk band.
Burn the Priest.
Exactly. There you go.
Yes. Okay.
Oh man. So, that's really funny you mentioned that. So, yeah, we're really happy to have you on today. So, thank you for coming and sitting down with us and, sharing your band experience with us.
Yeah.
So, first and foremost, Taking Aplha, where did you get the inspiration to start this band?
So I was back in high school. I was in a band called Restore All Vengeance, and we were like a Christian metalcore band, like kind of like War of Ages, almost copy and paste, but not really. Influenced by bands like All That Remains and things like that. And then we started getting more into the hardcore scene, sort of at the end of our, I guess you could say at the end of our lifespan, and I still had a lot of material written together. So after I finished college, I picked up our drummer and I was like, hey, let's jam some of the stuff I wrote. And so I guess from the ashes of our previous band, we started Taking Aplha.
Okay. Where did you get the name Taking Aplha?
So I don't know if you guys played probably the 4th or 5th best Halo game called Halo 4.
Yeah.
You're talking to a bunch of nerds right here.
Yeah.
I still think Reach is better.
Yeah. I mean, that's a different conversation entirely.
Oh my god. We're doing a bad interview, not a game argument.
I don't know if you guys remember the game type Dominion on matchmaking.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
So there's basically like each team had, 4 bases or so, like Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta.
Yeah.
And I thought of the name when I was inside the other team's Alpha base taking it over, and the announcer said, "We're taking Alpha." And I was like, that's the band name.
Oh, right
Nice.
on.
Well, that's actually a really cool band name. It's actually really catchy, and
Thanks.
it's. I mean, you see with a lot of like metalcore bands, some of them have gotten very intricate and like very just out of nowhere. With like the Ghost Inside You and like For Your Sakes or stuff like that. And it's like just taking off of something simple like that. Actually, I feel adds more to the music that you're bringing to it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. So the simplicity is kind of it's kind of a double-edged sword, I guess, because once I came up with the band name, I thought of a deeper meaning behind it, which would be of maybe an Omega Wolf in a wolf pack who is suppressed by the rest of the pack, and it's his kind of like an underdog story of how he would rise to the top of that pack and take Alpha.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that could be symbolic for a variety of, life circumstances.
Well, to be fair, with a lot of current hardcore and metalcore bands, that's definitely the theme is overcoming and taking what's yours.
Absolutely.
And so the fact that you have that in your name and you're already bringing that to the front, that's actually, in my opinion, that's smart. That's a smart thing to do, especially for a band name, especially this day and age, because I feel like bands try so hard to make such unique names that they only focus on that. And when you got something as simple yet as unique as Taking Alpha, it says everything you need to hear about the band, but keeps you intrigued to listen to more.
Absolutely. So, thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, you definitely been kind of going through a bit of a rough time with the band. I mean...
Yeah, so it's funny how much drama the band has gone through, and just being a local Colorado band. We started in Colorado Springs actually, and we got our whole band together, played a bunch of shows. We debuted as a 3-piece actually, with just a drummer and our vocalist, and I was doing guitar and supporting vocals. And then, shortly after that, we started getting reception and noticed. Our debut was at the Black Sheep. I don't know if you guys heard of that venue.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Colorado Springs.
It's such a small venue too.
It's awesome though.
Oh yeah, totally awesome. But it's a lot smaller than I thought it was going to be.
Right. It's a great venue, especially when it's all packed.
Yeah.
But we started, I guess, building momentum and snowballing, and we were playing a lot of shows. Starting to play a lot of shows in Denver, Colorado Springs, and then even branching a little bit out of state. We played a fest in Arizona. We were playing a couple shows in Grand Junction, and we were also recording an EP. Shortly after that, our good friend who was producing our EP actually passed away, sort of, when we were almost done wrapping it up.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, his name is Austin Sutton, a great friend, great guy. And after that happened, we played, his benefit show, and shortly after that, our vocalist left the band. And then after that, the rest of the band was kind of like, this isn't really where we want to be right now. So we've just been on hiatus ever since, and it's been pretty much me putting together the band. I guess resurrecting the band, putting back together.
Well, and that's just such an admirable thing to see coming from your end. I mean, it's when you have that much shit hit you, and hit you that fast. The fact that you're still pushing forward it's truly an underdog story. It really is. And I mean, that's the point I made to Cody. I was like, we got to help this guy out because, he definitely deserves it because, we were originally in a band before we started this podcast. And some of most of our listeners are going to know that. But, and
I ended up getting a bum shoulder so we couldn't keep playing. I tore my rotator cuff.
He couldn't drum anymore.
Yeah, if you remember from our first conversation, I actually asked you if you wanted to try out.
I felt so bad. I was like, oh man, I want to say yes, but I don't want to get your hopes up when I can't make practice or anything. Yeah. So I don't mind filling in for you for a couple shows, but I just don't want to get your hopes up and then let you down.
So we all have different schedules. It's not like we're in high school anymore and we just have to go to class and then our parents are supporting us. We all have jobs too, and our work schedules and also relationships and our family, and it all can take up our time. So it just comes to that point where the free time you have, you really got to prioritize it. And being in a band takes a lot of time just to even get people on board to playing the music.
There's local artists here, which I won't name drop because we have to ask permission and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. There's local artists here that, made some good advice that, I read from one of her posts and said, when you replace with, this isn't an excuse for what I'm not going to do today, and you replace it with, this isn't a priority for me today. It changes the entire effect that it has. And do you feel that way when it comes to band practices and meeting deadlines?
So I think the hardest way, or the most difficulty I've had is not actually, getting band practice and committing to that. It's been more of basically changing internally that, yes, I got to keep moving forward with this project. And I gotta push forward and bring new people back here. So in a way, the main struggle has been, changing my heart to basically say, let's do this one more time.
Yeah. And that can be really hard to do.
Mm-hmm. But after the practice has been set up, I feel like a lot of other musicians tend to have more difficulty with keeping that commitment.
Yeah.
I've had some last minute sort of changes in schedules that have prevented some people from fully jumping on board, and I think it's just kind of goes back to that priority. Everybody has a different set of priorities that they need to deal with.
Well, dude, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, good.
So I mean, how do you keep coming back from that? Every time someone has to drop the ball on you. I mean, I don't know what goes on in these people's lives, but that's just an example. The word I'm going to use is dropping the ball on you.
So basically, I guess I'm blessed in a way that I have so many contacts that I know, who can, who are interested enough to keep that conversation going. So if one person says, no, I can't do this anymore, then there's somebody else who can take his place. And that's definitely helped out a lot.
Yeah,
well, that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's really nice to have like a blanket like that you can fall into. You ever put any thought to just try and go on a solo gig for a minute, or
you mean like acoustic?
Yeah, acoustic, or even just just doing your name as the band name, and then like Joan Jett and the Blackhearts or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, stuff like that. You ever given thought to that?
Some people have suggested that, but I think that taking Aplha, even though it's my concept and I kind of gave birth to it, it's not really a. I want it to be larger than me, so I don't want to put my name on it in a way.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
you want this to take off. You want this to be its own thing.
Right.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's admirable. That's that definitely deserves its own amount of respect for sure.
But don't get me wrong, I would do a solo project probably, but it would probably be acoustic.
Yeah.
If I did.
Would you? What kind of genre would you fall into then when you go into acoustic? If you've given it any thought.
Well, see, that's the thing is taking Aplha has our lyrical content is it's pretty serious. It's kind of that underdog dialogue that we were just talking about a little bit ago, but as far as acoustic and what I like to play when I'm by myself and the kind of music I'd write, it probably would be like straight comedy.
We got nothing against that.
Yeah.
Hopefully people can handle two different sides of the same person.
Yeah.
Hey, it worked for Weird Al and a bunch of other people. Fucking Bo Burnham.
Yeah, Bo Burnham.
Yeah.
So then let's focus a little more on taking Aplha. So you're talking about lyrical content. What goes into your writing process, or can you go into that at all about what inspires you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose that when taking Aplha, after my band Restore All Vengeance split several years ago, and I was sitting in college and basically being told what to do by professors and spending all my time in class and doing homework, and of course we had fun too, but it was mostly me. It felt like I was walking somebody else's path, and something that was predetermined by society, as angsty as that might sound. So I was just sitting in my room, and I was kind of feeling a sort of, I don't know if it's an identity crisis or a quarter life crisis or maybe even just a depression.
Right.
Yeah.
And those lyrics were kind of, I guess in a way, trying to help me get back on the right path. And I had also come from a pretty religious background, and I know my family is pretty religious, and I'm not saying anything against that at all, but being told what to think and how to believe didn't really strike.
It makes it hard.
Right, the right chord with me. So I would say that some of our earlier songs were inspired by a lot of that people, and that might be cookie cutter in this genre, but in a way they inspired lyrics to take a sort of non-institutional or non-conformist approach in that sort of way.
No, I get what you're saying, and it is obviously come off as a very teenage angsty thing to say stuff like that, but there is validity to that. It's true. And I guess unless you're really molded by that certain type of culture where you have to, grow up and live the way that you're told to live, where we live, in America and stuff, this culture, it's definitely more free of choice,
Right.
And so when you're talking about, you get to that age
where you're like, I don't know if this is really for me anymore, and you kind of like, I just want to take my own life in my own hands and just roll the dice and see where I land.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And it can be tough though, because sometimes that kind of path is the most risky one.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and again, the society is built around to support that path of, education and college and, stuff like that, right. And it's where you venture from that you have to support yourself. You have to figure out a way to make it work. And it's rough. I mean, when I first graduated from high school, like, I dropped out of college almost like within my first year, because I was like, I've been in school my entire life. I want to figure out what I want to do, what I really want to do.
Take a break from that institution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I do think, it also deserves respect, when you can say, this isn't for me, and to actually, like, take a risk in finding your own happiness that is by your own terms.
Right.
So, I mean, that's really something that's powerful to hear. But I'm going forward, so what inspires you to write? Like, where do you get your inspiration to write your lyrics from?
A lot of our lyrics, like, we have a song called Solitude, and it kind of comes from, Ralph Waldo Emerson's self-reliance essay. In a way, it's not directly derivative of that per se, but it's essentially that sort of Emersonian philosophy of, once you cut yourself away from outer influences, and that includes society, that can include your family, the world in general, and you truly listen to your own inner voice, then you can find your own path. And it really goes kind of in what you were just talking about when you decided to drop out of college, because you wanted to get away from how people were drilling into you what you should be doing, and you wanted to figure that out for yourself. So in a lot of ways, I think a lot of the people I looked up to decided that what they wanted to do was something that only their own hearts could decide, and they had to resolve not to listen to those outer influences.
Well, and that's perfect you say that, because I think what's really frustrating is that, the most notable figures in our culture have either, dropped out of high school or didn't go to college. I mean, even Bill Gates, like, I think he actually did drop out of high school, and for fuck's sake, like...
Bill Gates, and then even, like, a bunch of people in music, like Slash.
Yeah.
Right, absolutely.
And so, when people say, like, oh, you're not going to get anywhere in life if, you don't go to college, there's a truth to that. But when you look at people, like Cody said, like Slash or Bill Gates. It's fucking Jim Carrey. Like, it's hard to be like, I don't know about that.
Right. And they're just like, watch me, bitches.
Absolutely.
So, you sent me a song called Gravemind. So let's talk about that, because we're actually going to put that up here on the podcast for people to listen to at the end of this episode. Let's talk about Gravemind and what went into that.
So Gravemind is one of the earliest songs I wrote for Taking Alpha. I was actually beginning to write this in my last project, but then we split up, so I just kind of had these riffs that I had set aside, and Gravemind grew from that, from a musical perspective. But from a lyrical sense, Gravemind is about Halo.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. We're here to judge.
So for those who don't know Halo, first you got to play the Halo, at least the original trilogy plus Reach.
Yeah,
I think, with, but in Halo there's something called the Flood. As you know, it's sort of the sci-fi, I guess, pseudo zombie sort of race that they take over life forms and convert them, and in a sense it's almost like a less robotic, more primal Borg, in a sort of way. But basically the Flood will kill people and assimilate them and resurrect them so that they get converted into this sort of hive, and it's governed by a central being called the Gravemind. And essentially I saw that hive-like thinking as a metaphor for not only religion, but it definitely could be like a sort of organized religion, but also some of the structures that we've talked about.
Well, yeah, because like Halo actually has a really, really deep religious meaning behind them when you play the stories. Because like the Covenant, it is like the hardcore religious cult for it.
Absolutely.
And then the Gravemind, even like because he's kind of like the anarchist kind of like setting, because he talks about like we have to like they want to exterminate us because of their thoughts, and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like obviously about a certain Halo character necessarily. It's written from the perspective of somebody who is like pending conversion into the flood.
Okay.
And the way the song ends is kind of like, okay, I can't stop this. I feel it happening now.
Yeah.
And basically he's trying to fight to keep his own identity as he's being absorbed into a group identity.
That kind of comes off like more like a cultish kind of term. The way, and the way you end that, like it's very more like a cultish kind of feeling in that sense. I mean, we could talk about Scientology all day, but
we could.
So what would you tell people what to expect when they are listening to Gravemind before they tap into it? What if you had to give them like a 10-second pitch of the song? What would you say?
You mean like a 10-second pitch of what the lyrics mean or what they should take away from it?
Just what to expect, like what we're going to get into once we dive into the song.
Once you dive into Gravemind, expect something, really hard-hitting. Expect it to be really uncomfortable and chaotic, and ultimately expect it to make you feel like you have really nice butterflies in your stomach.
I mean, over here at the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, we love chaos and butterflies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You've seen butterflies mate. It's one of the most chaotic things ever.
That's awesome. And so you are still currently looking for bands, correct?
We
are
are
not bands, band members. Sorry.
Right. So we're assembling right now. We have several people who are sort of hopping on board the Taking Alpha train. Whether they're here to stay long term or not is something that only fate will decide.
Yeah.
So essentially, people who are interested, I would like them to send their, any kind of past recordings or demos that they might have to our Facebook page, which it's facebook.com/takingalpha.
Right, and we'll include it in the episode notes for you too.
Right. If they could send that in a private message, that'd be a great way to get noticed by us.
Right. Yeah, we'll definitely, like I said, we'll include that in the episode notes so they can reach out to you.
Right.
And so, I mean, so what spots are you trying to fill right now exactly?
So right now we're looking mostly for guitar and bass.
Okay.
All right.
Any kind of lyrical or songwriting abilities will also be a strength, and if somebody can sing while playing an instrument, that would definitely help as well. I would say the main thing that people need to keep in mind is we're not a Christian band, you know what I mean? Like I mentioned that we had a Christian band before, but we're not a really negative band.
Yeah, you like to make more inspirational kind of stuff like that.
Similar to the Ghosts Inside, I would say.
Yeah.
Like just because it's heavy and hard-hitting doesn't mean that it needs to make people feel angry. And we might have, and we do have some things that are going to possibly, make people feel
Well, and I think that's pretty badass. I mean, when you're, taking on a genre that is known for really angry, getting the anger out lyrics, and you put more inspiration into it. I mean, I'm not gonna necessarily say it's punk rock, but I will say, to take a spin and to, break down the mold of a genre to something that people don't expect or don't like, I think is badass. I mean, isn't that what the fuck, rock and roll is supposed to be? Is make people, freak out over your music and make people excited to hear it at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a refreshing take too, especially when you consider like the metal genre, because like a lot of it is like especially the mainstream stuff is like very like hard hitting and angry style music, or at least it gets that label. So like when you have the people that actually listen to the lyrics and you're like, oh, this is actually pretty great. Like, it's inspirational, it's uplifting, and I could still headbang.
Well, in fact, one of the bands I've been getting into recently is The Anchor. They're from here as well, Denver. And they do, what you're talking about. They also do, like, inspirational, like, uplifting, like, keep moving forward lyrics. And they're, a hardcore band, too. And so, you don't see a lot of that. Like, I know I just mentioned The Anchor, you just mentioned The Ghost Inside, but those are maybe two bands that we can think of right now, you know. And I'm not saying there aren't other bands out there that are like that, but, to see, a band like Taking Alpha come up and, start getting on this train of, like, hey, guys, we don't really need to be negative all the time. Let's talk about fucking life for once and how great it can be. Like,
absolutely.
like that's badass, and that I definitely do think that deserves its own respect as well.
Thank you.
And I think that's the biggest word we've been using this entire time is respect. Because we give you a lot of respect because you're keeping this going. You have, for anyone else, they would have just given up, and you're still pushing forward. You're still pushing ahead. You're basically like, squinching your fist and saying, "Fuck this! I'm gonna make this happen." Like, and that is badass.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. It sounds way cooler hearing somebody else tell me that I'm doing that.
We're the same way. When anyone tells us we're funny, that's like, "Oh, thanks."
Like, oh gosh, you stop that.
So we get it. Yeah, it's always nice, when actually there is actually legitimate words of kind criticism. Like that's actually nice to hear.
Thank you.
Especially like now that we live in a state of technology where it's always negative. Like you're always going to get negative.
Always
shit.
negative. Always impersonal.
Yeah, someone's
Yeah.
going to say you're not hard enough, or someone's going to say you're a poser, or someone it's.
Yeah, and I mean, in some sense of the word, I might be a poser, but I don't really know if that's for anybody to decide.
I mean, have you received any harsh criticism, or?
Maybe just from former members.
We don't have to delve into that. They're not here. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Not from any of our shows, certainly.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
I guess more of a poser in the sense that I guess a lot of people have this idea that if you're going to be in a hardcore band or if you're going to be in a metal band, you have to subscribe to this certain what we're going to beat the crap out of people at shows and this kind of
Yeah.
thing. And like on I spend my free time watching anime with my girlfriend, so playing some Nintendo. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of people don't realize with the bands they love. I mean, a lot of them are just normal dudes. Even we were talking about Hatebreed, and for fuck's sake, Jamie Jasta, if you ever listen to his podcast, talks about how he likes to live healthy, and he tries to eat healthy. Talks about going, vegetarian, going vegan. And I was like, the dude who did, in the ashes they shall reap. It's just I'm really trying, this new diet.
Right. And he breaks up fights at shows too.
Exactly. And that's no hate against Jamie, but it's the point.
I think it's a good thing, yeah.
Well, and that's my point. Is the point being is that a lot of times is guys on stage, especially our bands, are just normal dudes.
Oh, absolutely.
And the music is the outlet, and I think a lot of, fans and a lot of, concert goers, get so caught up in the atmosphere that they kind of forget that. And I'm not saying that, that's their fault, I mean, it's how can you not? I mean, when you go to a Guar show, you definitely get caught up in Guar.
Yeah, they're slaughtering things on stage, but then they find out they're like, oh, yeah, I watch cartoons with my kids on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Tom from Slayer, he's pretty outspokenly Christian, if I recall correctly.
Catholic. I think he's
Catholic.
Catholic,
Christian? Okay. Cool.
But still, seeing doing all this hardcore heavy metal stuff, and then he's like, I go to church on Sunday.
Yeah, he's even said I'm not Satanist. I'm not a Satanist. This is just these are things I see that are wrong with my religion, and put them in a song, and you can't blame him for doing that. I mean,
absolutely not.
But I think you're always gonna have people that are like that. Do you have any crazy concerts or shows that you've been to? Any crazy stories in that end?
That I've been to or that I've played?
Either. I specifically played.
So in my last band, Restore All Vengeance, I know my brother got one of his teeth chipped in the mosh pit at my show while my band was playing. His mouth was bleeding pretty badly. So that's a
family.
That's a funny. Yeah. And speaking of family, my dad was also in that pit. Yeah, my high school principal decided to show up, and he stage dived, which was really cool.
Wow,
that's cool.
That's dope.
That's one of the the best stories I have from a band or from one of my bands playing. Going to shows, I've been to so many. I guess it's kind of made me a little bit jaded now. Maybe getting punched in the face during Hatebreed was pretty. I mean, I wasn't surprised by it though. Yeah. More things happen to other people, than to me for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cody, he had his So
I was at a show and I was third row from the stage. And a guy jumped off the front of the stage dive and went straight into my mouth, and my front right tooth got lodged into his head and snapped.
What show was that?
Tooth.
Oh wow!
Was that IC? Was that your
yeah, it was
ICP show?
ICP. So like I was in a
I thought
class.
you were gonna say I see stars.
I saw
So
stars.
hardcore.
Like,
So hardcore.
no, because like I was in a class when I was in college, and we were researching like gangs and cults and hate groups and stuff, and like ICP got labeled a gang by the FBI. So my teacher was like, "Who'd be willing to go to an ICP show?" And I was the only one that raised my hand because like, free show, I'll go. So and then I broke my tooth and all the top of my front bottom teeth,
Oh wow!
like in that one instance.
Yeah, and then you told me about like the dude who got his gauge ripped out.
Yeah, a guy got his gauge ripped out in the mosh pit.
Ooh,
and,
I know.
like,
Man.
That's why, like, whenever I tell my girlfriend, it's like, yeah, I'm going to a show. There's going to be mosh pits. I can't wait to go in. And she just goes, no, you're not. I want you alive.
Yeah, I feel a certain sense of pain from getting engagements out because I don't have ear gauges, but I have my scrotum gauged.
Okay.
So
I was just like,
Oh no! I was gonna be like, no, go ahead. I want to see where the story goes.
Yeah, I want to see what's happened to this scenario.
no, just a Prince Albert.
Does ever get caught up on your pants when you're just pulling up your underwear and you're just like, oh my god!
Has it ever got caught in a loofah?
That's actually happened to me when I used to have my nipple pierced. I would be like scrubbing me down with like a loofah and it would get stuck on the ring and I'd have to let it go and then there would be a loofah hanging off my tit.
You should get a tattoo underneath your nipple.
Oh yeah, with like a loofah.
So you can always remember it.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I'll never forget that one
Just show
time.
your kids and we're like, I want to get my nipples pierced. And this
Is what you want. All right, man. Well, we're at the 30-minute mark. Like, time flew by. Like, this is going great.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, before we close this out, do you have any ending statements that you want to make for the song that we're going to play at the end of this for listeners?
At the end of Gravemind, I guess.
Or I should say, where can they catch more of your work?
Well, the only thing is to keep an eye out because Gravemind is off of our upcoming EP, which is titled Omega. And once that drops, it's in its final mixing stages. And as you heard earlier, we have to onboard some more members.
Yeah.
But keep an eye out on our social media page on facebook.com/Taking Alpha so that once we announce our EP release show, you can be there.
There you go. Do you have a month when it might come out that we can tell our listeners?
I don't have any. I have only an estimated range, and that would probably be from anywhere between today and like 2020.
Fair enough.
That's right.
I gotta get those members first.
You gotta keep it a mystery. Hey, no hate, man. But yeah, Taking Alpha is definitely looking for a guitarist and a bass player still. So hit him up. Hit up Joseph. He's definitely ready to get down and go to some hardcore shows and get you kids out there punching walls out of pure joy instead of anger.
Out of joy, yes. But just to let you know, Gravemind is not an uplifting song.
So we want to make that clear.
In spite of everything we've talked about.
It might be fucked up, but we're not going to mislead you.
There's always one.
Say, you got any other finishing statements you want to end on?
Well, thanks for listening, and thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Yeah, thank you for coming on, Joseph, and thank you, everyone. We'll include Taking Alpha's Facebook page and where you can reach them in our episode notes. As always, if you want to keep up with what we're doing, follow us on Twitter @officialphp and our Facebook as well, Punk Rock Horror Podcast.
And on Instagram, Punk Rock Horror Podcast, #PHP Podcast.
And that's it from us, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Podcast over.
Bye.
Later.
So there you have it, everyone. That was our interview with Joseph from Taking Alpha. We hope you guys liked it, and like we promised, we have their song Gravemind coming up right now.